What's up, it's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and today I'll be talking about the top prospects at the College Cup. The NCAA Championship is into the Final Four, and we have some pretty talented players in there. And while some people might go, oh, it's college soccer, we shouldn't be paying attention to it, I disagree. I think that we have a lot of prospects all over the world. I am checking players out in Norway, Turkey. I'm getting up early to watch some players play in Japan, and how stupid would we be to not check our own backyard? And not to mention, we've had some good players come from there. Matt Turner had a really good World Cup. And in addition to the other players from the MLS who played in college, some players who I'm really impressed with are Miles Robinson, who probably should have been at the World Cup. Injuries happen. Mark McKenzie, who's somebody who I think has a lot of talent. Aiden Morris, who I'm going to be clamoring for getting some more minutes. And I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about this. I'm going to be talking about the College Cup, and in a few days I'll be talking about the MLS College Showcase, which is the top players who aren't in the College Cup, the NCAA Final Four, which I actually didn't know last year. When I covered both of them, I accidentally got that right. The top prospect at this tournament has to be Duncan McGuire, the striker out of Creighton. He is currently a sophomore in eligibility, but due to the missed year and having a red shirt, he's a senior, so I believe he's MLS draft eligible without having to get a Generation Adidas contract. I believe he's a 2001, making him Olympic eligible. And this year he's been the NCAA's top scorer, and top scorer by a wide margin, and he's not even taking all the penalties on Creighton. He's a man from the Big East, and I think he's on his Kemba Walker run, if you remember that, in 2011. He's a 6'1" and used that well. He's very good in the air, both in scoring goals and in hold-up play. He can bring down the ball very well. In the box, he can score with both feet. He's right-footed but has a good left foot. Very good first touch. I really like his hold-up play. In addition, he's got a really nice long throw, though I wouldn't use that much. I'd probably have him in the box. Again, just good hold-up play, wins aerial duels, solid first touch. Like, he's got a good burst of speed. He's not super athletic, but he can do a backflip. He does that after he celebrates. He's not really asked to press in his system, but I think he could. Like, he looks like a really talented striker prospect. Like, I'd say, like, only thing I really knock on him is, like, he's more of an old school number 9. He's not, like, that creative of a player, and, like, not like a super athlete, but I really like his ability. I think that could translate to the next level, and if I'm an MLS team, I'm definitely taking a look at him. I think Duncan McGuire could be a very good player. Right now, I am only covering the U.S. men's national team eligible prospects, so I'm going to be leaving off a lot of the really good players. I'll mention them a bit. So Pittsburgh, they have Valentin Noel and Burton Jacqueson, who have been very good. I think they're called the French Connection. I'm expecting both to be in the MLS. Two really good players, and in goal, they have Joe van der Sar. And if you're wondering, like, oh, that's kind of funny, like, goalkeeper with the last name van der Sar, that's a cool coincidence. No, that's Edwin's son. Like, he's been doing well for them. But on to the American players, we have Filip Markovic, who's a midfielder for Pitt. He's a 6'2" junior, and he's out of NYCFC, so a homegrown deal is possible. He is a junior, and a true junior, so he would have to get a Generation Adidas contract to get into the MLS draft. I think there's a chance New York City FC take a deal on him. We'll have to see how their transfers work out, but it's possible. As a player, he's more of a deep-lying playmaker. Despite being 6'2", he's more of a technical player. Really nice passer. He can find a lot of passes, like, takes them out really well. He's one of the top NCAA players in assist, and somebody you really have to keep an eye on there. I will say, like, I think he's, like, takes a couple of too many touches when he's in the midfield, and I'm not sure if he's, like, can play fast enough to translate to an international level, but I think at least in the MLS, he'll be, like, a very good, like, Will Trapp, Jackson Ewell type player, and he is somebody to keep an eye on. Maybe you could take Keaton Park's spot if Keaton Parks moves on. That's something possible, but he looks like a really good player. And then another guy from Pitt who I'm really excited about is Jackson Gilman. He's somebody I've talked about before. He's from the Philadelphia Union. I'd honestly like them to give him a homegrown contract. For his position, he's been playing a center back for Pitt, and he's been doing a really good job. He is 5'11" and not great in the air. I think he's long-term will either be right back. He's a right-footed player. He's actually played left back a little bit, though. And midfield is also a really good possibility. He probably would have gotten a homegrown contract in just about any other academy, or any other academy that's good that offers homegrown contracts. But unfortunately, he was behind Paxton Aronson, Quinn Sullivan, Jack McGlynn, Brandon Craig. So it's like he could have been a top 5 player in his like top 5 midfielder in like the entire country, and he still wouldn't have gotten a homegrown deal. Like, just Philadelphia really good with their talent, but that can be a downside sometimes. I think as a center back, he's looked really good in build-up play. I think that translates to him being really good on the ball in midfield. He's even doing well in pressure. Like, when he's getting pressed, he's still picking out some good passes. He's also inciting attacks with his passing. Like, he's been looking really good for them. I think as a defender, he's looking pretty good with the more technical aspects. Like, he's running an offsides trap well. He's stepping up well, like showing good aggression. I like his personality. He's actually pretty quick as a player. Like, I like his speed, but he's a freshman center back, so he's obviously getting out muscled sometimes, but that's going to come with time. And I think Jackson Gilman looks really good as a prospect. Somebody I'd like the Philadelphia Union to take a chance on, either this year, maybe next year. I think you do a job at right back if Oliver Mbaizo moves on, good in the midfield. I think we just signed Andres Pereira, but I think Jackson Gilman's a really good player. Next, on to Syracuse, and they're really known for putting through a lot of good Canadian prospects. Tajon Buchanan's an obvious name. DeAndre Kerr went to Toronto. He came from there. Like, there's a lot of really good prospects from there, but they also brought through Miles Robinson, so definitely some good potential there for American players. For their Canadians, they have Levante Johnson, who's looking pretty good. Christian Curti as well. Some more good internationals, and Nathan Opoku, who will probably be given a Generation Adidas deal. He's looking really good. Anthony Sinclair looks good. Buster Schoberg should be back. But I think the American player I'm most impressed with is Kurt Kolov. He's a winger. He's been playing a bit of a wingback role. He's a sophomore this year. I don't think he'd be in the MLS draft this year, but he's somebody who I think looks really good. He's pretty fast. He's a really good crosser. He can press well. A good dribbler, good technical ability. He's taking a lot of their set pieces. He's looking really good as a set piece threat. He scored off an Olympiaco, or kind of saying that wrong, off of corner kick in their last game, and he scored off some free kicks before. And I think what I really like is he plays with like a lot of flair. Like, you can tell he's a really good player, like confident, plays with like an exciting fashion. He's got some good technical ability as well. Like, I think he's one of those players who like has that technical floor needed to advance to the next level, similar to a Jackson Gilman and Duncan McGuire. And I think he's going to be a really good player. He's not eligible for a homegrown contract anywhere. He's from PDA. I think he was a part of that really good run they had in MLS Next a couple of years ago. And I think he's someone who could really look out for, and he's one of those Syracuse players to watch. Now on to Indiana. They've been putting through a lot of really good players lately. Aiden Morris is a name that comes to mind. And Indiana, they actually have a good core of American players. That's all I'm going to talk about. They have a really good-looking squad. Their main guy this year is Ryan Winterbrick. He's a forward, which I'm saying in kind of a general terms. I think he'd be best as a striker. He's been playing as a wing on the left side, so he can cut it on his right foot. He's 6'1". I think that translates well to being a striker at the next level. He is MLS draft eligible. I think that's where he's going to go. I think he's a really big goal threat, like a talented scorer, and he's been a really good passer. His crossing has been pretty good. Top in assists and goals for Indiana, I believe. Their stats on their website is kind of broken. Like, their website's not looking that good. And their highlights are actually way worse than a lot of other schools, which is weird from a team that's like a perennial soccer powerhouse. But Winterbrick, he's looking really good. I don't think he's as technical as you'd like with a lot of players. I'm going to repeat this for Indiana. They're a lot more of a physical team, but he's looking like a pretty good threat. He's a bit less of an athlete, but he's looking really good in the box. I think he could be pretty good in the MLS. Then we have Sam Sarver. He's a striker, or could also play a wing. He's 5'9". He's a sophomore. I believe he could be given a homegrown contract by the Columbus Crew. I'm not positive about that, though. I know he was with the Crew for a while, though. He's just a really fast player. He's similar to a lot of players from Indiana. Just good goal threat. He's actually a really nice presser. He got a good goal against Clemson doing that. And while he's not the most technical player, I think that he is pretty good, and I could see him as a pretty big threat. Somebody who I honestly wouldn't have been surprised if he gets a look at in a U20 camp. He is eligible for the U20 still. And someone who I think could be a really good player. I think Sam Sarver is someone to keep an eye on. Next, at defensive midfield, we have Jack Wagner. He's defensive midfielder, 5'10", freshman player. He's starting as a freshman. He is homegrown eligible for St. Louis City. So if they want to get a lot of players, St. Louis City actually has a good amount of guys on this Indiana team they could take a look at. I think as a player, Wagner, I've talked about him before. He's pretty good with both of his feet, and he can pick out a pass. Good job at keeping the ball close, and he's a pretty good athlete covering ground, though. He is only a freshman. You can only ask him to do so much. But I think Wagner does have a good future, at the very least in the MLS. Then they have a really good center back pairing in Daniel Mooney and Joey Mayer. Myers, his brother is actually in Nashville. He's partnering Walker Zimmerman. Both of them are from St. Louis City and could possibly have a homegrown deal. If not, Meyer will get in the MLS draft next year. Mooney is eligible this year. Both solid defenders who are pretty comfortable on the ball, not like elite. I think Jackson Gilman's like really good under pressure. I haven't seen that out of them yet. Could come though. Mooney might shift to right back. He's 6 foot tall. That's a possibility that I've seen. And I think both of them are just really good, provided like a really solid defense for Indiana. And in goal, they have JT Harms, who is 6'1", true junior. Again, might be eligible for a homegrown deal with the Columbus Crew. If not, he's available in next year's MLS draft. He came from Duke as a transfer after backing up Will Pulisic, Christian Pulisic's cousin. And he's filled in for Roman Celentano, a goalkeeper who I'd like to bring into Camp Cupcake really well. He probably has another year before he goes pro, but I really like him as a shot stopper, and his distribution's not bad as well. I think Harms is going to be a pretty good player in the future, and I would not be surprised if he's at the very least in the MLS. And I'm just going to run through like a lot of other players there, or too many guys to like really go in depth with. In Indiana, we have Patrick McDonald, who's a pretty good technical midfielder, somebody I've really liked. Then you have Herbert Endley, who's a senior. He's another one of those really fast, good Indiana players. Luca Becerra is a striker with some big guys, some good hold-up play. He's played a little bit this year and actually done really well when he has played, but he hasn't played since, and I think they're trying to save a red shirt for him. I'm just guessing. I have no idea, but that's my guess. And Tommy Mihalic is somebody who looks really good, but he's a Croatia dual international, so I'm not sure where he ends up playing, but he's number 10. He is somebody to watch for Indiana. Now for the rest of the players, just some more guys I wanted to run through. Owen O'Malley out of Creighton. He looks really good. He's been playing as a bit of like a wing back, I guess, but like a lot more offensive. He's been playing on the left and cutting inside on the right. Pretty good technical player. He can score, good size and defending. I think he's somebody to keep an eye out for next year, maybe in 2 years, depending on how his eligibility goes. Jackson Castro is a sophomore out of Creighton. He's a good winger with... He plays with his right foot. That's his dominant foot, but he has very good left as well. Pretty good movement, pretty quick, good pressing ability. Again, somebody to keep an eye out for in the future. Oh, and some internationals from Creighton. I forgot to mention them. Charles August, Callum Watson. Really like Watson going forward. Paul Cruz in goal, and Giorgio Probo, really technical player who is the one who is taking their penalties. Then, Luke Mitchell is a center back out of Creighton as well. Redshirt junior. He could be MLS draft eligible. Former youth national. He's like 6 foot tall. He's very good with his left foot as a center back. He's pretty good playing out the back, decent in the air as well. He'll probably spend another year at Creighton, but he is somebody to look out for. Then out of Pitt, we have Jackson Waddle, defensive midfielder, 5'10", like really strong defensively. He's out of Mount Verde Academy, so he's going to be an MLS draft player. Like again, he's more of a defensive-minded midfielder. Like you're not going to get too much from him going forward. But he's been really strong defensively. He's got like a lot of stamina as well. Like reminds me of like a little bit of Kellen Acosta's role with the national team. He'd obviously have a lot to go through to get to Kellen Acosta's level, but just for a comparison. Then a couple more players from Syracuse. We have Russell Shaley in goal, 6'1" goalkeeper. He's from Atlanta's academy, but they already have like a logjam of good young keepers, so I don't think they'd offer him a contract. He could be available in the draft. He's a redshirt senior. I think he has some good positioning, and he's pretty good with everything else. He's not great with his feet, but he's like pretty good with like both of them. He's like primary with his right foot, but he can use his left foot pretty well. Like he's got a lot of power, but not exactly like a precision passer. Then Abdi Salim, he's a defender from Syracuse, 6'1", could play another year, might not. He's another draft eligible player, a bit more of a no-nonsense defender, but he's been part of a really good backline for Syracuse. Then lastly, we got Jorvio Koveski. I might have said that name wrong. He's a midfielder. He's a 6'1" true junior. He's out of Liverpool, New York, so he is eligible for the U.S. And plays as a defensive midfielder, does a good job breaking up a lot of attacks, and pretty good technically as well. Recycles the ball really well, but he's not asked to do too much with the ball. I'm kind of excited to see him step into a bigger role next year. And yeah, that's my opinions on the top prospects at the College Cup. A lot of really good players, expecting Duncan McGuire, Jackson Gilman, maybe Kurt Koloff to really be good players in the future. In the MLS, maybe at a higher level, we'll have to see. And I think it is good to keep an eye on college soccer because we do have a good amount of good players coming from there. And like I said, I'm checking all over the world for talent. I'd be stupid to not check out my backyard. So yeah, that's all I'll talk about. A couple of really good prospects. Excited to watch this. And yeah, see ya.